back to Bible Brekkie. It's been a minute to be back and here with all the guys. So just a little, see how you can hear me. Brian, are you? Can you hear me? 1, 2.
I,
Oh,
I I hear you. You're just like a little
Yeah,
distant.
hello.
like faint.
Muffled.
Yeah,
Let me try to fix it.
There you go.
That sounded a lot
yeah, you're
better.
good.
Maybe you just gotta be like this, like on
Oh,
the
okay. There we go. How about that? Is that better?
yeah.
That sounds great,
Yeah.
bro.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we did this, so we forgot. All right, no, just how's everyone doing? How's it going? How's it going, man? How's it going?
That's
No.
good.
All right, cool. Gabe, how you doing, man?
Doing well, bro. Can't complain.
Got you, man. Got you. Brian, what about you?
I'm good, man. You know, mate, alfajores. I know Gabe has some mate too, so that's
I
nice.
have alfajores too, and mate.
Whoa!
Oh snap!
What?
All
I don't know
right.
if this has autofocus or not. I don't.
Hold
I
up,
think I
hold
took
up.
the autofocus
Buen
off.
provecho.
How did you guys both get mate and
I don't know.
alfajores?
That wasn't planned at all.
I didn't even know Gabe was gonna show up, man. I heard his voice. I was like, wow, this is nice. This is a treat.
Milagro.
Um,
Steven, what about you? What you have alfajores? You have mate?
Man, it's early out here on the west, so I've got water.
What time is it out there for you?
It's 7:45. I mean, it's not. It's honestly, it really is breakfast time. But
Yeah.
Val went to go do something, so I'll just wait till she comes back.
Maybe she can bring you like a breakfast burrito or something.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's facts.
That'd actually be nice.
Our first question today is 7:45 early?
Depends on the day.
Oh.
Depends on the day. So on your off day, is 7:45 early?
No, because typically on my off day I like to wake up early because I want to do something. Like now that I live in San Diego, like I do a lot of
Yeah.
like outdoor stuff, and so it's nice to do it in the morning where I can, and I just use that time to like have a slower pace. So that actually looks like waking up earlier for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like today, because most of my stuff is towards the end of the day.
Yeah.
I actually woke up earlier versus later, which is kind of weird, but that's me.
No, my off day I typically either wake up around 9 or 10. But
I do too. Just
it varies.
Eastern.
Yeah.
It varies. Like Tuesday and Wednesday, I woke up at 5. This morning, I woke up at 7. It just varies.
Sorry, cat appearance over here. And that guy who had that cat on his Zoom call,
That's all right.
So
Cat's good.
7:45
Cat's
early.
good.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. I'm glad you guys are doing well. It's good to see. We got a couple of new backgrounds here.
How are you, Seb?
Oh, true. I'm doing good, man.
That's right. I'm a person too. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm in this group too. No, we're doing good. Yeah, all things considered, it's a new year. It's kind of chilly out here, so we got to bundle up a bit. It's probably what, Ryan. I don't know how cold it is for you, but it's
I mean,
probably
down here this morning it was it was in the 50s. It was like 54, something like that this morning.
correct.
And then it
Yeah.
changed gradually. It's probably like in 68 right now.
Yeah, Gabe's face is like,
It's perfect weather, man.
what would I do for that weather? Yeah, man, it was really, really cold this morning. So when I walked, I had to bundle up when I walked the dog this morning. So
I don't know how I can show you this because no, it's not gonna work.
Just tell us.
It's 68 degrees.
Yeah.
Oof,
I wanted to show
man.
proof, but
It's
you know,
sent to chill. It's
it
68.
does, man. It's just like you wake up, it's nice. You're standing by the door, it's nice and chilly. You got a little, couple jackets on. It's
That sounds
57 right now for us, so it's a
perfect weather, bro.
and you got the sun out, but it's nice. It's nice. Don't have to shovel the snow, so I like that.
It's true.
But that's good. No, well, we're glad to be back again. It's been a crazy couple months, busyness through the holidays, but we'll see if we can get back on track a bit. But we're gonna go in and jump into Matthew chapter 1. We're running out of books now, yo. We've done. Just kidding. We got like 64 more books. 60. We did what? Galatians,
Galatians,
Romans,
Yeah, James.
Romans, James,
James,
Ruth,
Ruth,
um,
Psalm.
A couple Psalms. Yeah,
Yeah.
Couple
few of
Psalms.
those.
Really.
Is that
that
five?
was
So
a
five?
yeah
Mm.
five or
I don't know.
six, I think.
5 or 6. So we're at 60. What? 61, 62 more.
60, I think. Right? Isn't it how many books? 66 books, right?
It's,
So it's like 61 more books left, and this would
Yeah.
be we would have 60 after this one. So
yeah,
And this only took us 2 years. So maybe.
Right.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we got
yeah.
so much time.
this is one you can put that on your CV, right? Been in Bible Brekkie for 7 years already.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I mean,
but yeah,
you know,
you never
you
know.
could.
Give me a good letter of recommendation as
I'll give
the
you
director and editor of
of the show.
The producer,
Producer. Yeah.
yeah.
Everyone
head
starts
producer.
somewhere, right? You got to start somewhere, and
executive producer Sebastian Lopez.
yeah, we'll do that. Then we have contributors. What would we call contributors? Yeah, participants.
Featuring Steve and Gabe and
Featuring.
Brian.
This is how people make it. But all right, well, we'll get into it. And jumping into Matthew 1, I'll be sharing my screen. We're actually going to go. I know I didn't share with you, but I think we should just read through the genealogy. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are and if you have any, according to like what the importance of genealogies in the Bible. I know some people,
Yeah,
some-
not very. It's just
I know some people are like, we just gloss over them. Others are like, no, this is important. So we'll just read through it. And then we'll discuss that there. So it says that this is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, Matthew 1, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar, Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Aminadab, Aminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. Solomon, the father of Rehoboam. Rehoboam, the father of Abijah. Abijah, the father of Asa. Asa, the father of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat, the father of Jehoram. Jehoram, the father of Uzziah. Uzziah, the father of Jotham. Jotham, the father of Ahaz. Ahaz, the father of Hezekiah. Hezekiah, the father of Manasseh. Manasseh, the father of Amon, Amon, the father of Josiah, and Josiah, the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the exile to Babylon. And after the exile to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Shealtiel, the father of Zerubbabel, Zerubbabel, the father of Abihud, Abihud, the father of Eliakim. Why did the names get tougher, I think, as the years went by?
because they mix with
Eliakim.
other cultures.
What was that?
Because they mix with other cultures.
All facts.
That's what I'm assuming. I mean, after they went to Babylon, it got tougher. So I think that's a safe assumption.
I think that's a valid. I would say, yeah. It sounds like anything I can come out with. Yeah. Eliakim, the father of Azor, Azor, the father of Zadok, Zadok, the father of Akim, Akim, the father of Elihud, Elihud, the father of Eliezer, Eliezer, the father of Matan, Matan, the father of Jacob, and Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. And Mary was the mother of Jesus, who was called the Messiah. And thus there were 14 generations in all from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile to Babylon, and 14 from the exile to the Messiah. So there is the genealogy of Jesus. A lot of names, and at the end, kind of the recap: 14 generations from Abraham to David, 14 from David to exile and in Babylon, and 14 from exile to the Messiah. So we'll open up the floor there, man. Brian started off saying the complexity could be because of where they were, and that third list was in Babylon, so they had a mixture of different names. Gabe, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I know that at least in the first 14 generations, there was already some mixing going on there with the inclusion of Rahab and Ruth, who are mentioned in that genealogy. So,
Yeah.
I guess my thoughts on the genealogy, it's kind of like their version of 23andMe or her ancestry. where you're kind of able to pan out and see the wide view, like the the big picture of how interconnected we are as humans. Um, of course, Matthew's an unbelievable researcher and was able to, compile this genealogy to kind of prove, Jesus is he's a Jew. He's the son of David. He comes from that particular branch in the, family of Israel. I like to see, of course, those names that appear that like we would often think like, oh, well, why do they get name dropped? Tamar, for instance,
Yeah.
um, Rahab. I think it's pretty interesting that they don't mention at all Bathsheba. They just say the mother of Solomon, the one who birthed Solomon. I don't know why he name drops Rahab and Tamar
And
and
not
Ruth,
Bathsheba.
but is unwilling to name Bathsheba. Maybe there's still some, at least at that time, some animosity there against David, or some male chauvinist belief that like, oh well, she's less than because she kind of tempted David. Not sure why, but anyhow, I think it's pretty cool because it shows how each of those children who were born from in those moments, and you could kind of find very similar situations in whichever generation is listed there, where it was difficult circumstances, right? Where a child was born. It wasn't ideal. There were a lot of challenges arising for those parents. And Jesus is born into a similar context, right? He's born into, a troubling time for both Joseph and Mary. And, we see that play out in the next portion of Matthew chapter 1. So I thought it was pretty cool. It sets the table, right? You see the wide view, the wide lens of human history, specifically Jesus's family, and then Matthew does like zoom in on Jesus's birth and explains how it's connected to the genealogy, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. That's
I
good.
feel like there's some really good things. I've been reading this book by Kat Armis. Val and I have been reading it, Abuelita Faith.
Mm-hmm.
And we just finished this chapter where she talks a little bit about kind of just how, like, for some of these women, right, you notice like, it pretty much is men throughout, and then there's like, the key women, is it Tamar, Ruth, and
Rahab.
And she talks about how just like those women, like, it was obviously an unideal situation, because I think a lot of time, I mean, we know most of them there was some level of prostitution that was a part of each of those stories, or taking a step of sexual, I don't know, you want to say temptation or whatever the word is, right? And she kind of talks about like that was pretty much all like the women had in terms of that was the only autonomy that they had. That was their only ability to really advocate for themselves, and to see them see their story lead to them kind of be what is seen as typically a bad thing, right? For that part of the story of Jesus. And I think it speaks to just the generational ebbs and flows that I think happen. And then even like, where I think Gabe, you were just touching on Bathsheba not being mentioned. I feel like part of it for me, or at least the way I've come to see it recently, has just been maybe like partial justice for Uriah, right? Because he was done wrong. That situation, right? So it refers to her as the wife of Uriah.
Yeah.
Right.
Placing Uriah back into the story where generationally he would have been removed. And I think God kind of recognizing like kind of the justice in that story, right? Even the Tamar story, where like she had things culturally owed to her, but they were removed, and how she got that back was saying, I'm going to pretend to be a prostitute, right? And so just the ebbs and flows that I think have happened generationally, and how all of that is a part of what, the lineage that Jesus came through. And I
Mhm.
think when we look at that, I think we oftentimes can be, at least for me, we can be really, I can be really hard on, like, sort of family history, or sort of that
Yeah.
23 and me
Yeah.
sort of story. Like, man, like, and while I think there are certain things that can be challenging. Oh, Alexa's about to talk in the background. Well, there's some things that can be challenging, culturally, or things that you faced in your
Mhm.
family just generationally. I think to know that good, amazing things can still come from that, and to use, what it is that we have, even if it's trying to talk over Alexa. But yeah, I think I made most of my point, just there in that sense. So
Yeah.
as a kid, I never really cared about the genealogy. I thought it was pointless. But I think now, as I've gotten older, I've been able to kind of notice, like, man, there's
Mhm.
just so much story, so much, even displacement, right? The Bible I'm reading from in verse 12 says, after the deportation to Babylon,
Mhm.
which was interesting wording.
Yeah.
So
That's
just
Yeah.
some
good.
of the movement that happens throughout that time, throughout culture, throughout history, and how that leads to Jesus, is just powerful for me.
That's really cool that you mentioned about Uriah.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
I never looked at it in that perspective. That's really really neat lens to view the story, and kind of like what you mentioned about the 23andMe. Uh, I feel like some people looking at, and there's actually videos, reactions of folks who have certain biases
Mhm.
or prejudices towards certain people groups, and then when they view their 23andMe results, they
Changes.
realize, like,
Mm,
yo, like, I have someone down the line in the family tree who
Mhm.
is from that people group or from that particular area in the world.
Yeah.
And I love how honest Matthew is in doing this work, because very easily he could have adopted a mentality of revisionist history,
Yeah.
where we're going to remove some of the names or
yeah.
some of the different movements, as he mentioned, right, going to Babylon, um, because it just suits the agenda of Messiah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to clean them up a little bit. Let's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
polish this family tree up, just to make him a little bit more palatable for the Jewish family, as well
Mhm.
as the outsiders who
More kosher. Yeah.
eventually hear
Yeah.
the story. But Matthew's like, no, it's going to be honest, and it's going to connect uh, Jesus with so many people groups who were
Mhm.
harmed or forgotten,
Yeah.
or thought of less than. So
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And I think Matthew even
I love it.
had, like, somewhat of a conflicted, relationship with the whole Jewish idea, because he was a tax collector for a while. Just that
Mhm.
whole
Mhm.
dynamic of, like, I don't really fit into the Jewish sort of model, like, completely. Right. There was some animosity, I think,
That's
probably
good.
towards him, for being a tax collector, for kind of working for the other side. And so I
Mhm.
think even as he's writing this story, I think there's maybe a sense of hope and liberation even for
Yeah.
him, to kind of see, like, all right, like, while the while circumstances have been not ideal, there's still, the greatest thing
Yeah.
can come out of them. And I think that probably even speaks to him,
It's like
specifically.
he knows what it's like to be an outcast, like some of the
Yeah.
people here. Yeah, I love that, man. Just like that point on Uriah, and then just the people you have, right? Tamar, as we mentioned, the women here, and Ruth, and these foreigners, Bathsheba, who's not named, Rahab. How Matthew's not afraid to say, "Hey, these are Jesus. This is Jesus's family, right?" Or, as Gabe was saying, it could have been a perfect family, but it's just the story of the Bible, right? It's a mess. It's a big mess, but God still does something with that mess. And that whole Uriah thing too, of incorporating there and saying, "Hey, look, this is a tainted past of David, but it's part of his past, and it's part of what brought us to this day and the Messiah." Um, so I think, yeah, you learn a lot. I'm reading through, like, with my sister and some other people at church. We're doing like a couple chapters a day of reading the Bible. So we're in Exodus. We just finished Exodus, up to Exodus 20 today. So it's interesting now reading these names, and after I've gone through Genesis, like
Mhm.
last week, we're doing like 5 chapters a day. You kind of see the story, and you just reminded, like, in that, just looking at it as the Bible as a story, just how messy it is, right? The families, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, like, they're all doing the same mistakes, lying about their wives or lying about their, their birthright, trying to get first place or not trusting God enough. So they take it into their own hands. And then seeing this and still knowing that, this is, afterwards. But now, as I've been journeying in that part and now seeing this, it's like, yo, it's cool, man, that God can still, even from a messy family that grew into as numerous as the sand in the sea, it's still awesome that as messy as it is, God can still do amazing things and bring his own, the savior of the world, through that mess, right? So I think it's a message to all of us in our 23andMe, because we all have messy, dysfunctional families and past, and God's still like, I can still do something amazing.
Yeah, and I think that kind of like the point of Matthew here in chapter 1 is to bring that out, as you were saying, Seba, and obviously, to state the obvious, really, it's kind of like Jesus' credentials, right? So everything that you learned throughout the Old Testament and everything that was spoken about the Messiah, well, check it out. Like Jesus kind of like sees it through and through. Not only that, but he's part of like this lineage that has gone through all the sufferings and all the punishments and all these things that fell upon them because of their ill doings, right? And so I think that in a way, Matthew, what he does is like saying, yeah, he comes from a messy family, but where all of these names failed, he is going to be successful, right? And so even though, like, these poor women had to do what they did in order to be given what they deserved, what was theirs, Jesus will get what is his, but I guess the lawful way or whatever, or same thing with everybody in here, right? Abraham, Isaac, Jake, all of them, Judah, they all really messed up. And I think the rest of the gospel that Matthew kind of dictates to people is just saying like, hey, all these situations that you see in this genealogy, well, this guy, he's perfect. He's going to bring it. He's going to bring it home for us.
Yeah, I like that. Jesus is like redeeming all of the past as well as
the future,
the promise of the future family.
Yeah, and even just the connection to, right, Jacob, the father of Joseph in the last verse, the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, right? So I was reading here in the Andrew's Bible and how he was saying, I guess I'll put it for myself. And it was saying that Matthew selected 3 groups of 14 generations, not for historical purposes, but because in Hebrew, the numerical value of David's name is 14. And so he was using this technique to convince his readers that Jesus is a Messiah king in the line of David. And he does so genealogically and theologically. So I know maybe you can go back and say, well, there's more than 14 generations between that. But his point was just everything just fits perfectly. And I'm trying to make a point that Jesus is a Messiah king that redeems, like you said, Gabe, all the past and all the future, which is beautiful there. So that opens up the book of Matthew. I don't know if anybody has thoughts. If not, we go into the story of what happens here.
I heard a preacher say once that it also divides everything into sevens, right? Right. And so basically Jesus is coming kind of is the beginning of the seventh 7 or something like that, where it's just like, okay, he's bringing rest and peace to this world.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
My Bible was just mentioning kind of similar to, what you were saying, Sebastian and Brian, just this, that genealogy was specifically tied to honor, right? So that was kind of the point of it, right? So there's this, we're laying out and we're highlighting key sort of matriarchal figures, typically patriarchal, right? In this context, right? That's who it's highlighting. So which speaks to the earlier point of just like why it was so interesting that certain people were mentioned, right? That there was this, that these were the key figures that are being chose to mention in this 14 generational story that kind of are the pillars of what would lead to that. And just another point, just from that book we were reading, I think Kat, she uses this word. I mean, you guys obviously know better. You guys are Spanish speakers. It's like sobreviviendo, right? It's survival, right?
Yeah.
And she was saying like that's kind of what the Matthew 1 kind of begins to talk about is how it's just they were just trying to survive in the culture, right? So especially for the women, but also like they were trying to survive displacement. They were trying to survive all these things. And then out at the end of it is the one who brings eternal life, right? So it kind of takes you from this step of just trying to survive into this greater life. And so it just was, as we kind of move, I just was reflecting on that just as I was looking at it again. Because I think that's true for most of our family stories. If we were to truly be able to get the true 23andMe with stories, with like for me when I got it, I was like, okay, cool. Like I see where I'm from, but no one else in my family tree is ever gonna take this test. So it's just like, okay. Yeah. So there's some level of, but here like you're able to see like all, for it to go all the way back, which is cool.
I think it's interesting too, because in his ministry, I think Jesus at different times they kind of question where he came from, right? Not just being from Nazareth, of like this, like this.
Well, I mean, the second part of the chapter kind of calls that into question in itself. I feel
right.
Because he's gonna start saying like, okay, but he's not really the son of Joseph.
Exactly, right. Yeah. I think it makes sense why Matthew would do this, compared to the other writers, where he's like, I need to spend some time saying where Jesus, he's not just from Nazareth and from Mary, not by Joseph, right? I know that's but the son of a carpenter, right? Like, I guess they said a couple of times, right? When he's like, isn't this like, we grew up with this dude, like he's from Nazareth, he's the son of a carpenter, and it's like, no, this dude's lineage goes way back to, it's just it's a rich lineage. Obviously we could all trace our ancestry back to Adam, but to say that everyone, we all coming from Abraham and then from David, like every one of those, like which is crazy, right? The odds of that happening, because Abraham has what? Isaac went blank. Has Isaac, right?
Yeah.
And Ishmael, right? So there's already two branches you could have, right? And then from Isaac you have Jacob and Esau. And so those are another two branches. So the odds of that, like, just tracing it all the way down, even if it, more than 14 generations, to end from Abraham directly to like Jesus, it's just kind of crazy to think about, right? The odds of that happening.
Yeah.
And going through all these, powerful and important people in history or situations. So yeah, it sets us up for like, for the reader, especially if you're Jewish and you're trying to figure out, in this time, Matthew's like, no, this Jesus is from here, and I'll tell you more about his birth. So,
and for the reader, who's a Jew who expects an honorable family tree, he might be thinking like already, like ya empezaste mal, Abraham, like what? He the guy who cheated on his wife, like
right?
Yeah.
Already?
Well, yes and no, because they would also be like, oh, Abraham. Our father.
Sure. Yeah, but then like they get to well, it's true, Solomon, as well, wisdom. But there's so many stories. Perhaps maybe like the Roman, right? Who's expecting a little bit more, polished family tree.
Yeah, that's true.
You would think that it's like, well, there's so many questionable characters on this list. How can I have faith in the name, where this list ends, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So I think that does present some kind of dynamic there. But obviously, when you read the rest of the story, it makes sense.
Yeah,
and that kind of followed Jesus, I think, like from from the time he started ministry, but obviously even when he was born, like as you look back, they're just like, yo, like, because I think people would say like, can anything good come from Nazareth? But I think from Nazareth, Egypt, that's the whole thing is like, how do we get here? Like, how is it possible for the Messiah to grow from this?
I think of the story in John chapter 8, I believe, where Jesus is having a conversation with some of the Pharisees, and they're saying that they're sons of Abraham, right? And they tell Jesus, like, we know who our father is, basically, insinuating that he doesn't know who his father is. That somehow,
saying he was born out of sin or something, right? They
exactly. So it does follow him during his life and his ministry.
That's a tough one, man. We know who our father is. You know who's your
Yeah.
daddy? Like, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Which is
Which is a whole conversation that I think happens today, where
I was about to say, right.
we can discredit certain people based on where they come from,
Mm-hmm.
or based on what
Mm-hmm.
their story is, and we can prop up other people because of that.
Yeah, based
Um,
on how many parents they had at home, you know.
Right,
yeah,
So,
right. Or
um,
the stereotypes, yeah. And it's interesting, it's beautiful, right? That at the end of the day, Jesus really relates with like all of humanity and in various dynamics, right? Um, so very cool. So it continues here in the story of what happens. And so he just said where Jesus comes from, and now this is kind of his the coming into the world part, and continues in Matthew 1:18, saying, "This is how the birth of Jesus the Messiah came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said to Joseph, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Jesus woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage, until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus.
Hmm.
Yeah. Crazy situation, man. Just from the beginning, this is how Jesus was the Messiah, how his birth came about. His mother was engaged or pledged to be married to Joseph. But before that happened, she was pregnant, man. And so already the situation just seems to start off like looking like some of the stories from the genealogy, right? Like,
yeah,
whoa, okay. So Mary's pregnant before she's even with a man, and she's engaged to Joseph, but it's not him. It's actually the Holy Spirit. So a very supernatural um birth. Yeah, walk me through that, guys. As guys, if this were to happen, putting yourself in Joseph's shoes.
you see a lot of like TikToks about that
I
sometimes.
see.
yeah,
I have seen that the TikTok of the guy that made the cake, baked the
hmm
cake.
Yeah,
He's like,
It was
"How'd
the
you
Holy
bake
yeah,
it? We
Spirit.
don't have an oven. The Holy Spirit made it. You see how it sounds, Mary?"
yeah. That,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a that's a good one.
That's a good. Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah, yeah. No, go ahead, Ben.
immediately
Go
the
ahead.
story, it starts off with a complication, right?
Mm.
Just as the the list of uh, names in the family tree, there were so many complications there. In this instance, though, like I see some glimmer of hope, at least in Joseph's character, although he's not playing a part in the uh, let's see he has no biological contribution
Right.
to the situation. In terms of character, like the
Mm.
fact that verse 19 tells us he was a righteous man, that's going to be a positive throughout the rest of Jesus' life, because he has an influence now of a man who wants to dignify his fiance, even though the law requires him to, stone her. That's essentially
Yeah.
to
Mm.
kill her publicly, to shame her in front of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But
Mm-hmm.
he's seeking to do something different. So I think already you kind of have like a reversal of some of the men included in the genealogy of Jesus, right? Who would view women as objects, and if they did not please them, they can be easily discarded.
Mm-hmm.
Where, whereas Joseph now, he's kind of like breaking that particular trend. So I really like that portion of the story.
Yeah, to me, that's a powerful section because, like you said, right, the Jewish law was that to protect the honor of the husband, right, or of the parties that were innocent, was to expose them publicly, right? And so bring them in front of the leaders and say, hey, kind of like they do with Jesus and the woman caught in adultery, right? And just like, hey, she deserves a punishment. Jesus, what do you think? And so the fact that he's, really speaks to his character, right? Because he had every right. Imagine, he's wanting to get married. His girl is pregnant. She's saying it's the Holy Spirit. He's like, nah, I'm not about this. I don't want shame. And especially in this culture, right? I don't want shame to come on my family, right? We kind of feel that too, when, being pastors, if someone has a baby and they're not married, you kind of, the shame that they take on, or church members look at them with shame and stuff. And so you feel that. But even here, yeah, like just knowing that is a something punishable by stoning and by death, and he's willing to say, no, I don't want to expose her to public disgrace. Like I love this woman, either because of his love for her. I think it's also a mixture of that, and he was just a good man. So he's saying, I'm going to divorce her quietly, which seemed to be, when I'm reading here in the Bible, when they were engaged, it was in the eyes of like in the eyes of this legal system, it looked like it was already marriage in the sense, so that you needed to have a certificate of divorce to do that. So he's trying to find a way, how can I do this without making a big scandal and show in our city, and just say, all right, here's this certificate of divorce, we're done, you go your way, I'll go my way, and let's not do that, when he had every legal right to say, no, let's take you up there, let's defend my honor. I don't want anyone to know that this was me, or that I allowed this to happen on my watch. You're gonna get it. And
and there's a story kind of like of questionable birth in the genealogy, and there's a name drop, which is Judah and Tamar. And you can kind of think of that story kind of as a setup for this one, where Judah and most of the people in the camp were ready to, Tamar was publicly criticized and shamed. Obviously, until Judah finds out, wait a minute, I'm the father of this child. That's when things, the narrative kind of takes a shift. But it gets to the point, at least in Tamar's story, where she is publicly shamed about, having gotten pregnant. And so Joseph, it seems like he's already unwilling to go down that path, although he wants to divorce her and do it in secret and such. There is kind of like a righteousness in that, and prescribing dignity to someone where in a culture that is usually not given that benefit. So I do think there is some, reversal, a shift away from the trend here, and as well as the language of the text kind of leads me to believe that he wasn't immediately convinced of that, because in verse let me see, I think it's verse 20, when he thought this over, right? Like when he was still thinking about it. The angel comes and says, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife, right? So he's also thinking of, well, maybe I should just marry her anyway. This way she can't be publicly shamed or, legally punished for this. So it kind of like shows me that he's going through a back and forth here, where he hasn't really made a decision to, just outright get rid of her.
Yeah. So I don't know if, I'm not an expert in this, obviously, but I don't know if like the parables shed any light on this. So, like the way that weddings would occur, at least the way that Matthew's telling this, it leads me to believe that Joseph, as the groom, had already returned for the second time to just have the wedding festivities and then take her home with him.
Yeah.
And so they were already married, I think, when he finds out, oh man, like you're expecting, and obviously we haven't been together yet. And I think that's why he is considering whether, okay, let's just go through all the festivities. Let's, celebrate this time. Let the community be happy about you and with you. And then at a later moment, I don't know how we're going to do this, but I can divorce you quietly. And I think that's where the angel's like, hey, dude, just just take her with you. At least the NIV says, don't be afraid to take Mary home as your wife. So he'd be traveling back home with his new bride, right? At least if the parable that Jesus says is accurate in that sense. That's what I would assume had happened in this story, from what it says.
Yeah.
But do you feel like this contradicts, like, or kind of nulls the genealogy in a way?
How so? I mean, if you could
Because he's
explain.
not Joseph's son.
Hmm. He's not Joseph's
Biological son.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't studied the entire genealogy here, and I also don't know culturally what were the stipulations of sonship within
I see.
people of Israel. So I don't know if they did counted like adopted
adoption?
sons as perfectly legal, but could have a point. I'm not sure.
I was trying because I know there's another genealogy. I think in Luke, right? Is it Luke?
I think it's someone goes back all the way to Adam. No, is that Luke or Mark?
I think it's
Luke.
Luke
goes
the son of Joseph. Yeah.
And then John just goes into like the beginning of the universe.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, Luke goes all the way back to God himself, the son of Adam, the son of God.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I know in the text, if you look at the genealogy, you'll see like after each name, right? Uzziah fathered Jotham, who fathered Ahaz, who fathered Hezekiah. So it kind of like uses that language of father, right? Like he's the father. But once it gets to Joseph,
the husband,
he's the husband of Mary, whom Jesus was born from. So he's not necessarily listed as father of Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point, right? Where like he's not. He's he came from the the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, not in the same. It's not father in the same way.
Yeah,
as the other one. So
yeah,
the legal guardian.
Yeah, legal guardian.
I mean, Joseph did raise him at least in
right,
the earthly
yeah.
sense, right?
Yeah.
So I think
took
he's
on his
owed
trade too. Yeah,
he's owed a level of fatherhood. I think like you kind of see that even in those conversations where someone is like, this is my biological father versus this is the father that raised me, right? That sort of, yeah.
But I also think that's just a beautiful part of the story because the honor isn't given to Joseph; it's given to Mary because she's the mother and she's the one that carried him.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. If you're looking it up, Joseph. Yeah. But nevertheless, for Joseph, it's a difficult situation, right? And it's like you said, Gabe, unless the angel comes in a dream, as kind of happens frequently for him in the beginning, right? Angels coming in and communicating with him. Hey, don't be afraid. Take her home. She's going to have a son, and that son is Jesus, who's going to save his people from their sins, which is a big task for Joseph too, right? Because he has like, he's a just guy, right? It seems to be he's a just, righteous guy. He's faithful to the law. So he understands his obligation to maybe his community and to being upstanding, a good citizen. And here he's being told something that in the eyes of everyone else is going to be hard to believe. that one, Mary got pregnant without another person, just the Holy Spirit, and secondly, that the baby that she has is actually the Messiah, right? So
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
like everything's against you, bro. Like this is the tough one. Like you have to,
Yeah.
and maybe when the angel appears, you're like, all right, no doubt in mind, Mary didn't cheat on me, we're good. But now
Yeah.
it's you and me, Mary. Like it's us two versus the world. Because who else? We're from Nazareth. Nobody's gonna believe that anything good comes from Nazareth. This is a tough predicament to be in.
Yeah.
Thankfully, both are together, right? Mary has that situation. How do you explain that to your family? Joseph has that too, so they're together. But it's a tough.
Yeah, so I think that it's kind of cool that, kind of Jesus has to go through the adoption process as well,
Hmm.
because it kind of shows like how empathetic he can be to
Yeah.
our adoption, right? As sons of God. Um,
Orphans.
huh?
As orphans
As
to sons of
orphans.
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, I think Joseph deserves a little bit of credit, not because I'm a guy and he was a dude, but like if you like think about it, one, it wasn't in his best interest whatsoever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
um and two, he never really got to see Jesus as Messiah,
Mm.
kind of living out in his ministry. And so it was like all this work
Mhm.
and the different things that it implied to have a son, having to go to the temple and dedicate him and do all this other stuff that required, you to invest
Mhm.
in that son. He did it,
Yeah.
without really knowing for sure, at least not
Yeah.
not knowing as far as like seeing,
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 and I think that
Yeah,
that's
no,
kind of that's pretty cool, um and something that I don't think we give Joseph much credit
for
for.
sure.
um
Yeah.
Even though, yeah, it was Mary who carried him, it is Mary who's crying over him while he's,
Mhm.
on the cross.
Mhm.
um she definitely like went through a lot more things than Joseph did, but Joseph took a
It's
leap of faith, you know.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that's very true. I think it's a hard. You think about like this comes later when they go to the temple when he's 12. He finally
Yeah.
he's understanding his, and then he's like, "Didn't you know that I'd be about my father's business or I'd be in my father's house?" Right? And it's
Mhm.
kind of like if Joseph really wasn't sure about his role, which even then it's hard, right? Like
Yeah.
you're literally the adopted dad, which I'm sure in adoptive situations and families kind of may feel that way, right? The parents like you're not my real dad. It's kind of that. So yeah, I think it really speaks volumes of Joseph starting from the beginning, the way he doesn't want to, take Mary to be punished in the way, but then the way he raises Jesus and gives, it looks like he gives all his life to him and teaching him
Yeah.
his trade and really raising him.
It also feels like Joseph has a choice, whereas Mary is like, "Hey, you're gonna,
Like you're
be the
pregnant.
mother
Yeah.
of Jesus,"
Yeah,
And it seems like
that's
Joseph
true.
has a choice, and I think like as we become older in life, we're kind of given these choices by God. Whereas when
Mhm.
you're kind of younger and someone's like, "Hey, would you like to lead out in whatever?" As far as like church and spirituality is
Mhm.
concerned, we're like, "Yeah, whatever," just because we want to be involved, we want to
Yeah.
belong, we
Yeah.
want to be part of this like divine plan. But as you get older and you get more cemented and you realize, okay, is this actually beneficial for me or not? I'm
Mm.
planning for the future. I got kids, that and the other. Um, God really gives him a choice,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's kind of cool that God even considers our selfish desires, right?
Mhm.
And what we feel is best for ourselves, even though that may not be exactly what He has planned or what He wills for us.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I
I
just want
want
to
to
add that.
mention.
Oh, go ahead. Just want to add to what Brian had said real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
The benefit of hindsight, right, for us is that you look back and like, all right, if I knew everything would play out like the way it did,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll do it. But Joseph had no idea, right? And for what it seems he died early, didn't really see the ministry of Jesus and all that the way that Mary did. So his faith in what the angel said and in what Mary is communicating to him, right, at expense of his reputation. I mean, later on, he has to go to Egypt because he's being persecuted. So all his livelihood, his family, everything, because of, for the choice of becoming and saying, hey, I'm going to take this on and I'm going to raise a son that's not mine,
Yeah.
but I understand is the Messiah, which requires a lot of faith to say, all right, you're telling me this little baby, we have the hindsight of a grown Jesus, right? Of a 30-year-old Jesus that died, but he's just understanding the Messiah as a child.
He's a
that
kid.
he's teaching, he's raising, he's communicating with, he's showing them how to use. That's a lot of faith, man.
Yeah.
He's
So
having to flee the country for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to add that I do think Mary had some kind of agency in the birth of Jesus. If you look at Luke's narrative of how the announcement where the angel Gabriel comes and tells her everything that's going to happen, and at the end she says, "Well, let it be," like let this be. So she agrees with everything that the angel tells her. I also don't know if we don't know because it's not told to us. It's not written down what exactly Jesus was able to accomplish. If he did any miracles leading up to his ministry, if Joseph was able to witness any of that. There's a story of Jesus's first miracle in the book of John where he goes to the wedding at Cana and, they run out of wine. And of course, the story water and wine, but how the story takes a pretty interesting twist. It's that it's Mary, the mother, who goes and convinces Jesus, yo, you got to do something about this situation. And he says, well, it's not my time yet. Nonetheless, she's like, okay, but whatever, guys, whatever he tells you to do it. So there's almost like an understanding that Mary has that Jesus is capable of miracles. So I don't know if he had done things like before that privately. And then this is like his grand public miracle to the wedding. So maybe Joseph saw some things that, were kind of like miraculous in nature. Of course, the story that we get, of him going to the temple, running off and like, don't you know I'm supposed to be here? But I do love the kind of like father figure that Joseph plays in raising Jesus and, wondering the entire time, is this really the Messiah? And never getting to actually see the rest of the story. Like it's a huge leap of faith that he takes, and the trouble that he experiences immediately after, saying yes, in continuing with the marriage with Mary. And then, the story of the birth, right? The census, having to go back to Bethlehem, not finding any place to stay, and then immediately having to be displaced and seek refuge in a foreign country. So it's like Joseph is probably, losing his hair, kicking himself in the butt. Like, what the heck? Messiah, how is this possible?
Yeah.
But I guess the word of affirmation in this dream, in this particular text, is that the son's name is Emmanuel, which is God with us. And I'm assuming that was enough for Joseph to say yes, like, oh, God with us, like God with me, God with Mary, in the context of, everything that the family, right, the genealogy has been through in, deportation, right, the exile to Babylon and back, and now under a foreign ruler, basically a colony of the Roman Empire under oppression, having tax, that was enough of a glimmer of hope, a word of comfort for Joseph to just, let's do it, just to give that response.
Yeah, I think more than anything, it was probably his name Jesus, right? Which you write, the Lord saves, right? Joshua. Because I don't know if, like, for instance, verse 22 and 23, I don't know if that's Matthew kind of being the spokesperson. I don't know if that's necessarily part of like what Joseph may have heard in the dream, right? Because he's kind of explaining all this took place so that blah 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 blah, right? You don't really see Emmanuel like anywhere aside from like the Old Testament and maybe here and like that one passage in Isaiah,
Yeah,
I've always wondered that, like, why didn't they call him Emmanuel? Like,
why was it Jesus over Emmanuel in the sense of
or Jesus Emmanuel, like give him a second name.
I'm sure there's some kid walking around with that name in Latin America.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, I just love the conversation that we've had just about Joseph and all the different sort of like even in relation to masculinity or manhood. I think it's just interesting like that Joseph is where it refers to him as a righteous man, and I've asked
Yeah.
myself like what would an unrighteous man do based on biblical principles, right? It kind of separates what culture says he's allowed to do, which wouldn't affect his righteousness,
Hmm.
versus what the Bible is now describing as righteous, which was different than what the culture gave him permission to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not
And
just the culture, the law, like
the law,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
absolutely, yeah,
Mine
yeah,
says
literally.
faithful to the law, not righteousness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Mine
the
says
culture
faithful.
was based on these writings, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
it's just so interesting that like that righteousness was described as in some ways going against what was the understanding of the times,
Mm-hmm.
and how that continues through, right? He has the right to publicly humiliate her, chooses not to. He does sort of, because he's a human being, probably he's more of like, well, I'm just going to divorce you privately and not make this a thing.
Mm.
But and as you were saying, it was interesting, Gabe, as you were saying, like how he's kind of going in his head of like, man, should I do this?
Yeah.
Should I still follow through? But what kind of seems to be at the forefront of his mind is the shame and guilt of Mary, instead of like, man, this is what I could do, but
Right.
more of like, how do I still sort of allow her to not be stoned, allow her to not be humiliated, and I'm still deeply, I would imagine, deeply in love or deeply care for this
Mm-hmm.
woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting and how that continues, and it continues on with saying that the Spirit comes and talks to him, and he accepts this, what the Spirit says, which is a big deal,
Yeah.
and then how verse 25 ends. I mean, just he had no marital relationship with her until she bore a son. And just this continual sort of like, man, that's not part of my role right now. My role
Right.
is
Right.
to
Right.
not fully sort of consummate this marriage. My role is to be open to what the Spirit's asking me to do. And ultimately, like you were saying, Brian, it ends with him never actually seeing Jesus be the Messiah, just maybe glimpses, as
Mm-hmm.
as we were
Yeah.
saying, like maybe there's
Yeah.
moments where he's like, oh, that is the son. Which I think there's probably moments in Joseph's mind of, is this the son?
Right? Like
Is,
he doesn't know how to walk yet. He,
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like,
He's got
he's-
poop in his
he's,
diapers. He's
Let
crying.
me add to what you're saying there, Stephen. I don't know if you're done, but what you were saying actually kind of and it goes with what Gabe said too, right? In that verse, the 20 to verse 20,
Mm-hmm.
right? But after he had considered this, right? So apparently he made up his mind. At least that's the way
Yeah.
I read that text. It's like, okay, he made up his mind. He knows what he's gonna do. When the angel appears to him, his first words, right? The Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife. So
Yeah.
I feel like in a way
Addressing
he
that,
had
yeah.
decided to take Mary home as his wife, but he was still afraid.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, that's
like
good.
That's
like
good,
at,
yeah.
least, at least that's how I'm reading it now, based on Stephen, what you just said, and I think like sometimes doing the right thing obviously causes us to be fearful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because not only of what people may say, but hey, I'm doing what I think is right,
Mhm.
even though what I think is right may not be totally backed up by like a written rule or a written law,
Yeah.
or someone that has done this in the past. No one had done this. It seemed, well, at least biblically, right? When you read the stories of the Bible, no one had done this. Like he's the first one to do something like this. And I don't know. I think like that's that's really cool. That the fact that he and I love that the angel is like Joseph, son of David, right? That's what he
Yeah.
calls him. He's like kind of
Mm.
like
That's right.
assuring him, like, hey, dude, you have kingly, blood
Mm-hmm.
in you, man. Like you can do this. Like kind of giving him some assurance, and I think that sometimes we need that reminder, right? I know it's like very superficial or whatever, but sometimes we need to repeat that to ourselves, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
am this, I am this, I am this, in order
Yeah.
to do what a person would do if that's what other people knew him as, the son
Yeah.
of David,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting, bro. Because I
just
wonder how
want-
much time. Oh, go get what?
I know. I just mentioned, he's called Joseph, son of David, by the angel, but everybody else knows him as the carpenter.
Right.
So
Right,
it's
Joseph from Nazareth, right?
Right.
yeah,
It's a
exactly. Which
deeper.
essentially
Yeah.
he's not really from Nazareth. He's from Bethlehem because
That's
that's where
true.
his family's from. So yeah, no, that's really good thoughts, Brian.
Yeah, man. I'm amazed at just because it could have been pretty easy for the angel to appear to Mary and Joseph at the same time, right? And been like, yo, both of you are gonna have a baby. Joseph, first of all, you're not gonna be the father, all right? But you know,
He's
yeah, like
like,
a Murray scene, yeah, and just like y'all
yeah,
good,
Mari, yeah,
you
yeah.
good, all right, there you go. But it's like, and maybe it's a testing of Joseph, right? Where we kind of see that through the people, even in the, Abraham kind of goes through that. David, everyone has in these, even this lineage has this moment where they're, like you were saying, Stephen, what the duty to the law and what, the cultural mix, that church and state at that point,
Yeah.
as you should do versus what is like, the hard thing, the loving thing to do. And I love that observation, Brian, where it'd probably be that he was thinking, hey, I'm going to take her home and raise this child as my own. Because imagine the days, who knows how much time happened, right? That Mary came to him and said, an angel came to me and my cousin's pregnant too, and they're old. And and then so you're thinking like all the Old Testament stories, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, like what's going on?
What am I in right
What
now?
am I in? And Joseph's like, I'm just a carpenter, dude.
He's
Like,
like,
I'm not.
what?
I did
No.
not ask for
And
this. Yeah.
so for him to really deliberate, and I think it's intentional by the angel and by God to give it some time to see, like, I don't know, maybe it's like, I don't want you to do this simply because I'm telling you to do it, but I want you because you actually chose it from your own heart. And at that moment, it's like, Joseph, I commend you and that decision you've taken. Don't be afraid to do it because because you believed in Mary's words, now it's like God comes in and says she was right. And the baby she's carrying is your Messiah, right? So I think it speaks, it really, we don't really talk about Joseph much because he's not really involved in the whole narrative of Jesus' story, but what an important role. And then to have this guy be the one that raises the adopted dad of Jesus, right? How much must have that affected Jesus as he grew up into being not just faithful to what was right and to the law, but also knowing to differentiate when the law was maybe too abusive and too harmful at that moment, and when to know, as you see in his, as in his ministry later on, Jesus is like, no, y'all have heard it was said, y'all misinterpreting the law. Like what's actually being said is that the heart of the mode and of the motive and about the core of it, and how much influence Joseph had in his life as he was teaching him, right, doing carpentry, man. It's like, dude, Joseph was a dude.
Yo, you bring up, Seb, you bring such a beautiful point there. How influential Joseph's understanding and interpretation, Torah and covenant, is influencing Jesus's ministry later on. Because of course, Jesus, he doesn't need our advice on the law. He was, like to quote Narnia, he was there when it was written, right? But his teaching, or Joseph's understanding, falls like in line with eventually what Jesus would teach, because what is legally permissible and expected is not often the righteous thing to do, where Joseph is like, well, he's acting in such a loving way, and that kind of like shows like, well, that's the fulfillment of the law, to act in a loving way and to dignify someone, someone else, in this case his wife. You asked a question, right? Like why did the angel appear to both of them at the same time? That's certainly, like, just thinking about that, I think it would have been easier that way.
Yeah, it makes more sense
Like,
to be like,
hey guys, by the way, congratulations on the marriage. But I just, considering the history of scripture and all the times God reveals himself, or gives like this huge important announcement, it's typically to a man, right? And the last time we actually saw the angel Gabriel was to a man in the book of Daniel. This time, the first person he approaches is a woman,
Yeah.
Mary, a young, not even a woman, a teenage girl, 15, 16 years old. So I think there's like a paradigm shift there that's important, because God is trying to also do something intentional in speaking first to Mary and then afterwards to Joseph. As well as, understanding that both of them have agency and have to make the decision about it.
Yeah.
Appearing to both of them could kind of, at the same time, could kind of like influence the decision. Well, if one says no, then the other might say no, just based on, the decision that they make. So that's my thought on that.
Yeah, and just their individual stories, their individual journeys. I think it's actually deeply meaningful that he approaches them
individually.
Separately. Yeah. And even in the context of relationships and marriage, just this sort of like, there are specific things God can tell one spouse that, that there's a journey that God is on, with me, then that's different than even with my wife, and then one that we're on collectively. And so for God to kind of, still speak into that there is huge.
You kind of in one accord. Yeah.
Yeah. An angel of the Lord does speak to Zechariah, right? In Luke. Which you want to, I don't know if it was before or after Mary, but I don't know.
Right.
But then I was just thinking too, I mean,
it was pregnant like sometime before.
Yeah. The benefit of this, we're kind of, I mean, unless you've gone to Sabbath school, Sunday school, your stories, but for this, this time and place where it was just seeped with Old Testament stories, you have, I mean, I was reminded the Samson's parents, Manoah and his wife, the angel appears to the woman first and says, hey, you're going to have a child. And she goes there. So I think there's the benefit of the Bible in that sense, right? And especially for Joseph at this time, the Old Testament is just like, and maybe son of, it's just, he's replaying all these stories in the Old Testament and saying, actually, it has, it's not the first time an angel appears to the woman and not to the man, right? And it's not the first time that God can do something like Zechariah. It's happening with Abraham and Sarah. They were super old. So to be reminded that, all right, the God we have is a God of the impossible. It's nice to have stories like this that show that when God calls you to do something uncomfortable, or when you're feeling that you're being called to that, right, before you have like a very clear, thus says the Lord, you're in good company, right? Joseph had that moment. Jesus had that moment at the Garden of Gethsemane, right? So many people in the Bible, even Abraham, you want me to go kill my, all these moments where people were like, I feel God is moving me to here. I don't have clear language that has been spoken to me by God. How many of us have had an actual vision or dream from God, like an angel like this? But but sometimes you move forward.
Every time I look in the mirror, buddy.
No, but sometimes you move forward in faith, right? And it's not until like you made that first step or the second one, right? You journeyed across the country, you changed, careers, you went into theology, whatever, that then it's like God comes in some way and says, this is where you're supposed to be. Well done. You did it, and it's crazy, man, that even the father of Jesus, if we were God, we would want everything to be like sterile and perfect, right? If you're bringing the savior of the world, like, make sure there's nothing bad. Like, put them in the best schools, right? Best educational systems, best city, best parents, best family unit. And here it's like, it's a broken, like from the beginning, it's
like hanging by a thread, literally.
It really is, yeah.
Everything is almost falling apart. And I think it's important that it plays out that way, because Jesus is having the full human experience.
Yes.
And that's how he connects with all of us. And there, as Stephen and Brian mentioned before, there's so many different human experiences that Jesus identifies with
and relates to,
born in such circumstances.
Yeah, I do love though what we've all mentioned, kind of like about just from his very birth, he's bringing tension to the law, and the way that it was practiced. So it's really cool.
Before he's born, man, that's it.
I think there's also like a reversal in that. I believe the genealogy starts with Abraham, right? And where Abraham and Sarah were both spoken to by God about the son who would be born. And Abraham is the first one like to actually believe, although, his faith kind of wavers throughout the story. But Sarah is the one that needs convincing right? And
Mhm.
then Jesus is born through Mary, and Mary immediately, she's like,
Let's do
all
it.
right, let's do this. And Joseph needs convincing.
Right.
So it's kind of like a reversal of roles.
Right,
Yeah.
but even in that story, you find like I feel like Abraham is such a punk, like in that story, because but before that scene, he tells Abraham, "Hey, man, like your descendants and all this stuff." But Abraham wasn't living according to what God told him about his
Yeah.
descendants, nor did he probably tell Sarah about what God
Mhm.
had told him. And I feel like that's why, like when God's like, "All right, hold on, I need to talk to both of you guys at the same time."
Mhm.
Abraham was more receptive because he's heard it before. And Sarah was probably like, "What are you talking about?"
And that's why she
You know,
laughs, because she's
one,
like,
my husband may have not told me this, but two, my husband sure as heck is not living like that's going to be a reality.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like here they're both being told in separate occasions, but for the first time,
yeah.
and then they kind of reassure each other.
Yeah, that's good. And I find it interesting, right, as we wrap up, how in most of these interactions, like God is not crystal clear 100% giving you everything that's going to happen, right? He could have said, Mary, from point A to point B, Z, right? This is going to happen. You're going to have a baby. Joseph's not going to believe you, but he's going to turn around. Don't worry. You're going to go to Egypt, right? All he says is like, are you willing? And it's like, yeah. What does that mean? You'll find out. And that's it. And you know, Abraham, same thing. You're gonna be a father of many nations. Okay, how? I'll be back. You know, time passes. Hey, remember, you're gonna be a father. And he's like, all right, I guess I gotta do it myself. So in all these stories, right? And I think that's where we fall into, you know, we don't always have the whole roadmap. And so it really requires us to stay connected to Jesus to try to figure out what you want us to do and how you want us to go about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, awesome beginning, man. This is good. A month late from Christmas, but hey,
It's still
good to
Christmas.
begin. Good to begin.
Christmas ends this weekend in Puerto Rico, so we're still on time.
Oh, you guys end the weekend. I thought it was like in the Three Kings Day.
No, I think it's this weekend. They usually have like a really big party in Old San Juan to like kind of like end everything. So yeah.
Maybe we'll make it for Easter, right? Towards the end of this.
When does Christmas end?
Could
That's
be.
good. All right, yo, we're gonna do our quick lightning round and then we'll finish off. We'll start off with this. I don't know how many of you, the Djokovic situation in Australia. I don't know how many of you have been following that.
I heard about it. I haven't really looked into it.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of
all
the
it
same.
is Novak Djokovic is in. They're doing the Australian Open, but he's not vaccinated in Australia.
So
as
it's
you know.
Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, Novak. His name's Novak. Yo,
That's funny. I didn't think of that one.
Novak. Novak.
Novak Djokovic.
So they've been
That's-
going back and forth. You know, people are team Australia, team Djokovic, but they've denied. Like it looks like in Australia, when you land, you have to. If you're not
I
vaccinated,
think
you
that's
have to do-
fair. I think that's fair. Him as an athlete, he should know, like, okay,
Yeah.
those are the rules of the country. We abide by the rules of the country.
Yeah.
The whole tennis association, they knew. So it's not like, oh my gosh, what can I play? Like, stop crying about it. If you want to play, get vaccinated. If you want to get vaccinated, don't play.
And
Play
it
the
looks
next
like
one,
he,
somewhere
and on
else.
top of that, it looks like he lied and he got some. He was around people when he was sick before that.
Yeah.
So that's what people are upset at too. It's not that he's not just vaccinated, but he lied about being sick, and then in some interviews, so they've denied
He
his.
told,
visa.
yeah, he said it. Yeah, they
He
just
denied-
revoked it again, right?
They revoked it again yesterday again. So people are, you know, they're on both sides.
He has no case.
Yeah.
He has no what?
He has no case, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially when you're going to another country, they do. You know, I know like like Chicago
Kyrie.
yesterday when the Nets played in Chicago, they made an exemption. So if you're like a visiting athlete or something and you don't have the vax, like you have an exemption, right? But you know, Brooklyn's not like that. That's why Kyrie can't play there. But
Well, Kyrie could play in Brooklyn. The
Oh, he
problem
could,
is the problem is if you are a resident of New York City or New York, the state of New York, if you're a resident of the state of New York and you go into that arena, you have to be vaccinated to do so.
Got you.
The Kyrie could have easily just put his home addresses in New Jersey, and then he'd
Right.
be, you know, he'd be exempt from that particular rule there. But that's his case. I think, with Djokovic, look, each government and city, etc.
Has their
They have those rules, those stipulations already communicated to the different professional sports associations that exist. So there is a level of prior communication that was already given to the athletes, to the organizers, just so that they can know what can be expected, what are the rules. So him going into the country and not getting access shouldn't come as a surprise to him, to any of his personnel, like to his staff, or to anybody in the tennis world, because that's the norm. That's what's expected.
It's a case of privilege, man. Just because you're a well-known athlete doesn't negate all the other rules.
He's the best in the world, or whatever.
Yeah, he's number one typically.
Yeah.
He's
sometimes he's number one.
The one thing I was wondering about was, and since I haven't looked into it too much, was the tennis association like they knew, and they kind of similar to like Aaron Rodgers? Was it kind of like, because I know with Aaron Rodgers in the NFL, like the NFL knew, and they still kind of like protected him, which was weird that they punished him in the end because the NFL and the team knew.
Aaron Rodgers has been babied by the NFL his whole career.
Yeah.
So
I mean, somebody got.
That's why the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. It's enough is enough. Heard it here first. So we transition to our NFL playoff predictions. Who we got?
Detroit Lions.
Yo, next year,
next century.
I don't know much about football, so yay, Miami Dolphin. I don't know. I can't.
We got
Falcons.
Fly.
Oh, Eagles. Whatever.
It looks like Steven is
He's going for the Atlanta Falcons.
That's the Cinderella story, man.
So this is what we got right here.
We lose this week.
All right, let me pick one of those, man. Let me see.
Hold up. Let me look for a different one. Hold on.
Yeah, because that one's kind of messy. You gotta get
the bracket. Yeah,
cleaner bracket.
Is this one? Ah, there we go.
There we go.
This is what it's looking like right here. So I'm keeping my eyes here. I'm going with the Cowboys to beat the Niners. Oh, we would play Green Bay. Yikes.
Yeah, Green Bay got the Packers
and then beat the wait. Is that how it is? I'm confused.
No, we would be going down the winner, going against the winner of the Rams and the Cardinals.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we're going down.
Yeah. But I also think I think seeding has some level to do with it too. So
it could be
if the Eagles beat the Bucks, the Eagles would then play the Packers because the Eagles would be the lowest seed. I think.
Really? Okay.
I think that's kind of why it's laid out that way, but I could be wrong. But I feel like that's.
I see what you're saying though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just do this. It'll be easier. Cowboys' path to victory.
Who's going for the Cowboys, bro?
We got two here. So.
Let me just see right here. They don't have a little thing.
Like a projection. Who would we go against if we win?
No, it doesn't say.
No one's that optimistic at the moment. So
the Cowboys.
No one has come up with that.
All I know is our last game against the Eagles, if that's indicative of how we're going to play in the
I hope so.
In the playoffs.
Against our backups. That's right, yeah. Against our backups. That
hey, they're still in the NFL, bro. They're still in the NFL.
Yeah, man. These professional players. Come on.
Yeah, okay. So who do you guys got? So we got from the Bucks and Eagles. I'm not going to say anything because we have an Eagle fan here, but I'm going to say Cowboys over here. I don't know about maybe Rams.
Dude, the Cardinals have weapons, but so do the Rams. I want to say Rams are going to win that game.
I like the Ram logo on the helmet. That's pretty cool.
Dang, Cincinnati's in the playoffs.
They won the division, which is crazy.
That's nuts.
So on the whatever the left side is, I'll say Steelers. And who's ever on the right side, I'm going for the Rams. You know, Jesus.
Oh,
bro, what happened to the bracket?
Steelers, Rams.
Are you trying to download it?
I'm trying to see if we can actually put this in stone.
Let's see what other stuff you got on here.
Whoa.
Office hours.
Oh,
Come
what
on,
is-
man. Don't be. Wow. All right. Whatever.
We'll just
Yeah.
roll with this.
All right.
Alright,
So we said Chiefs, Steelers.
bro,
Chiefs.
Chiefs. Come on, the Chiefs.
I'm going for Steelers.
I think it'll be closer than people are expecting it to be, but the Chiefs will still win.
Yeah.
Do they still have that one quarterback, Roethlisberger or something?
Yeah, it's
Roethlisberger?
his last game. Yeah.
Yeah,
Roth
this could
just
be
lost-
his last game. That's it.
Roth just lost his burger.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Big Ben.
Big Ben. I think Bills. I don't know. Bills, Patriots. They played twice, and they got 1-1.
That's a tough matchup.
That's a
I
tough
think that's
one.
probably going to be the best matchup in this.
Yeah,
part.
So
from
many,
here.
like,
Yeah,
divisional-
Bengals. I think Bengals come out here. Chiefs, and I'm not sure. I would think Bills, but Patriots.
Mac,
Yeah.
Mac
I think
attack.
here. All right, Steven, you beat the Bucks. You beat the Packers too.
No. I don't even think we're beating the Bucks.
Yeah, the Eagles have the toughest journey, bro.
Yeah,
How
you do. You
gonna
do
have
have a
But
tough
if we did it, man, that would be amazing. I mean,
go
like,
against Tom Brady and then Aaron Rodgers back to back.
Yo, at this point,
the
who
last
has
time
what-
Tom Brady played us, we all know what happened.
Are we confident to say whoever wins the NFC wins the Super Bowl?
No, because
Titans are strong.
I think the
Titans are-
Chiefs and Titans are
Chiefs and
really
Titans.
even the Bills. If the Bills can get past New England, I think the Bills have a fighting chance against everybody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I think they match up well against everybody.
The
Bengals,
Bills,
I mean,
played,
Bengals
the
pretty
Bills
all
played
right.
great last year against the Chiefs. I mean,
And they beat them this year.
yeah, they in the playoffs. So last year against the Chiefs, that was a shootout.
No, but the hard thing, bro, about this, and that's why I tell everyone, like, it's different from basketball where you get seven, at least 4 tries. Soccer
One
where
game,
you
yeah.
get at least 2. This is like if you don't show up that game, that's it. You have one bad game,
One
2
game.
bad plays or something. That's it, and your whole season, which is tough, right? It makes it much more valuable, but you got to have a lot of luck riding on your side too for some of the plays and the calls and the injuries. But hey, last time the Bucks won, Cowboys won. I'm just saying, just putting that out there.
All right,
So-
let's just go with gut picks.
Gut picks,
Gut
Cowboys.
picks out of the AFC.
AFC,
Out of the AFC,
I would say maybe tie.
if they get Derrick Henry back,
Yeah, I say
they have a
Titans.
real
They have a good
Titans Cowboys.
Titans, Cowboys.
Okay.
Gabe?
for the final for the
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Nope, you don't have to pick the winner, just the Super
Just
Bowl
the
matchup.
last
Oh,
two.
I think it's gonna be Cowboys against the Bills. A little rematch
right.
of the '90s
I'll
Super Bowl.
I'll probably go Chiefs
What'd you say,
Packers.
Gabe?
It's a rematch. I think we played Buffalo for the Super Bowl in 1992, 93. I forget what year.
Steven, who'd you say?
Chiefs Packers.
Ooh, nah, we don't want that, man.
Yeah.
Brian, what
I
about
would
you?
root for Steelers, Rams, but I'm just gonna go for the number 1 guys, Titans and Packers.
Titans
and
Packers.
just call it a day.
He's
All
like
right,
either
we-
extreme upset matchup or the consensus.
All right, there we go. Those are I'm gonna keep these here for later, and we'll see what happens. So
No,
let's see the common
But-
denominators: Packers and Cowboys. Yeah,
but my heart is Steelers against the Rams.
Part of me though cannot rule out the Bucks though. Like part of me is just like Tom Brady's gonna pull it out. As much as I do not
Yeah.
want that to happen. Like this pick is really contingent on the Packers actually avenging last year, which I'm
Yeah.
not fully sure they can do. But
yeah.
if
think
there's
the
any
issue-
year this year,
The issue with Tom Brady is that when he gets into the playoffs, he just turns into
He's really good.
the Tom Brady.
but it's
He
okay.
looked
He's right. Yeah,
he looked
he's
very
facing
vulnerable this
Philly.
season, but
Yeah.
his little dink and dunk strategy in the playoffs, it just works every time.
Yeah.
It's you kill time, and if you keep getting first downs, you're good, man. That's why I think the Cowboys mess up sometimes. We get down into these third down situations instead of moving the ball, and you give the ball back after a minute. It's like, come on.
That's why I
man.
have some hope in my Eagles because we're a running team.
Yeah,
So I think like we can
And your
actually
running
keep
is
them off
good.
the field. We can
If
keep
you
them off
get,
the field. Yeah.
yeah. If you get what's
Because if
your
we
guy
try
with
to
running
throw
back?
it, We got like 3 running. Miles
Bro,
Sanders,
even your
Howard.
backup guy was killed us for like
Kenneth Gainwell. Yeah, we got like 4 good backs plus Jalen Hurts. So
Yeah.
if we try to get into an aerial matchup, we'll lose. But if we kind of play the way we have played, like we can make it close.
Yeah. But all right, yo. I said, which wildcard team is the biggest threat to win it all?
Cowboys.
They said the 49ers. Come on.
The Steelers.
I mean, Steven, you're wearing Steelers colors. So.
Yeah, it's just Steelers Eagles. That's actually my pick. The 7th seeds.
That'd be pretty cool.
All right, last question here. Something you're looking forward to in 2022, besides the Cowboys lifting up the Lombardi.
El Mundial.
Oh,
True.
Yo, if Cowboys win, Argentina wins, man. That would be a perfect year. And Lakers come back and win it.
Argentina versus Italy for the final. That'd be
if Italy makes the World Cup, bro. They might not even make the World Cup.
I thought whoever wins the
Euro
is an automatic
qualifies.
Qualification.
No.
Wow.
When's the Euro qualification?
It's coming up. You have Italy, you have Portugal, you have
Oh, that's true because Portugal was on the brink. Yeah, they have to come. They have to play in.
There's like 3 big like countries, soccer countries on there, that don't have a seat in the World Cup for now.
Oh yeah, so it's yeah. Let me show.
I think Italy will qualify. Just
there you go. So you got Scotland. What is it? Scotland, Ukraine, Wales, Austria, Portugal, Turkey, Italy, North Macedonia.
I got North Macedonia against Ukraine.
That's right. Hey, North Macedonia, that's Steven's team, dude.
That's it. Wow.
That's crazy. So
Can
Italy,
you go somewhere where it says like the names of the actual countries?
Not just the
I'm having a tough time
trying to decipher.
Recognize
like you have Poland and Sweden and Czech.
You're telling me you don't know the flags?
Wow, you're
name
so
every team on there, bro.
Oops, not books.
Indian books.
I don't know. Is it this one?
When I first see that, I think I'm looking at an elephant, and then I realize it's a jersey. Like at the first.
Oh, that's not it.
Azerbaijan.
I don't even know where to go to look for this, bro.
I didn't even know Azerbaijan was considered a European country.
Well, it's like Qatar playing in the CONCACAF. Is it CONCACAF? Yeah.
Who playing the CONCACAF?
Qatar. What team was in that was playing versus Mexico? I think it's Qatar.
Yeah, but they usually
was an international competition where they invited Qatar to come play.
Like
sometimes Mexico gets an invitation to play in.
Look at that. Czech Republic, bro. Italy, Portugal.
So the big one. I mean, Ukraine was in the World Cup last year. Sweden.
Yeah, but all those are tough teams, bro. Poland, Sweden, Russia.
Well, Russia was tough.
Italy. So Italy, all they have to do is play and beat North Macedonia, and they're in.
No, bro. See?
Oh, then they would play each other. Okay.
And there's no way that both Italy and Portugal make it because they're on the same.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, I see. So Portugal, Turkey. Oh, they're gonna. So either Portugal or Italy make it. Yo,
that's insane.
Wow. Don't worry about it. North Macedonia is making it, so don't even worry about it.
Yo, can you imagine if Turkey and North Macedonia pull the upset and it's North Macedonia? That's wild. So these are the 3 play-ins. Like these are the 3 spots. Yo, that was out, man. They put them together, bro.
Poland and Ukraine.
So who do you got? Poland, Italy. I think Russia is
I'm just laughing because Argentina is in already. But last World Cup, we weren't in until the last game. So
yeah.
That's so stressful, man. That whole process. Oh man.
Do we know who's the qualified teams are? Oh, let's see.
We could probably go off of like live and just do
yeah
this.
we probably should do. Yeah, well, I mean, it's part of the process, man. People are gonna be like an hour and a half. Oh,
This
there
is
we
gonna
go.
be like those podcasts where I skip the first like 8 minutes because it's a bunch of gibberish,
There
and
you
then
go. So
they actually get into it.
nation ranking. Oh, so these are the first person. Qatar, obviously.
Qatar's
Germany.
number one.
No, they're
Yeah,
ranked
yeah.
46, but they were the first to qualify.
Well, yeah, because
It's
it's in
their home.
Qatar.
Germany, Denmark, Brazil, France, Belgium, Croatia, Spain, Serbia, England, Switzerland, Netherlands, Argentina. And so you got, wow. That's crazy, man. So Italy, it'll be either Italy or Portugal. Crazy stuff, man. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys, for this time. Something you're looking for. Oh, yeah. Brian said the Qatar, the World Cup. What about you guys? I'm saying Cowboys winning the Super Bowl.
Um,
Come
I'm-
on, bro. Come on,
I
Steven.
think that will actually happen. So you got.
Steven, bro, you already won like 3 years ago, bro. Give us
I
one.
mean, I
Give us
guess.
one.
I mean, you guys always call back your history of Super Bowl. So
I don't, man. I want to read
You want a fresh one?
The only reason why people don't want the Cowboys to win is because you guys are annoying, bro. Like,
bro. Not
if,
as annoying
if
as a
the
Patriot
Cowboy
fan.
fans
Not
weren't as annoying, I think people would want them to win more.
I
No.
think people find Tom Brady / Patriot fans more annoying
I
than
agree.
anything. But I mean, at least in recent years.
Well, although half of them are Bucks fans now, so
Yeah, exactly. And they live in freaking Boston.
The way the question's phrased, right? More annoying, Patriots or America's team?
Yeah, come on.
We're not annoying, bro. We're just America's team.
I feel like the Patriots, though, technically are like America's team in the sense of like their patriotism. I don't know,
Nah, man.
but
Yeah.
or the Eagles, because we're the bird of the United States.
I do think like the Patriots should have been split up a long time ago. Like, there's no way you should have one team for like however many states.
Us, New England.
Yeah, no. Everybody else has one state, bro. Like,
So I'll say mine.
Yeah.
Something I'm looking forward to is I'm planning to run the Philadelphia Marathon in November.
Oh, so you're going for the Eagles, huh?
Hey,
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's fun, man.
you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, looking forward to it, man. It's a big goal on my
Bucket list?
agenda.
Cool.
Yeah, that's good. Steven, did you say something?
no, I think man, I'm looking forward to the year, man. I mean, I don't know, like I don't really have anything like huge planned. I mean, hopefully get some traveling.
Yeah.
We've had like most of our travel plans, like most people, the last couple of years just be deterred. So
Yeah.
there's that. Nothing specific.
No, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. I hope you were blessed as we were. And go Cowboys this weekend. We'll see you all next time.